Hello, everyone.
Welcome to our first episode of the Husbands to Dads podcast.
What? Welcome. We are so excited to be here with you.
If you're new to us, if you've never discovered us, I'm Bret.
And I'm Stephen.
And we are the Broadway Husbands.
The Broadway Husbands.
And the reason we call ourselves Broadway Husbands is because we both worked
on Broadway
in New York City for 25 years before the pandemic, when we randomly ended up in Texas having our son, who's now 3.
What?
And becoming dads. And that's the title of the podcast. We went from Broadway Husbands to Broadway Dads, and a lot has happened in the meantime, especially in growing our Instagram account, our community of amazing supporters who are always engaging in our content and giving us so much love. So we want to shout out to you.
Thank you.
Helping us build this and helping us build this community and being a part of it. And we just constantly hope to bring as much joy into people's lives as possible.
Yeah. And so today we wanted to kind of talk about just like a current occurrence that has been happening with us. You know, we have a toddler who is...
I think since this is the first episode, we should just say, like, our real intention behind this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Is that we feel like we're constantly in a space as parents where we feel kind of othered, because so much of the parenting space is really structured around heteronormative relationships. And so...
And let's be clear, like heteronormative relationships, like the structure, the way that it's like blasted out into the universe is like all so mom centric. And I think one of the first things I noticed when I became a dad is that the pressure that's put upon women it's insane. It's insane. Like, I mean, we knew that obviously. But then when you become a parent and you see all the mommy. I mean, it's...
Yeah. And so shout out to moms.
Shout out to women. Yeah. I mean,
it's a lot of pressure to, if you decide not to be a mom, you're going to constantly feel othered.
If you decide not to breastfeed, if you don't breastfeed,
do IVF. I mean, there's so much othering that happens in that space. And then that kind of falls into us as queer parents, as a two dad family. We constantly have to filter what we see when we go into spaces. So, for instance, we go to this wonderful pediatric chiropractor, right? And
amazing. It's so good.
In, and there's a big sign on the wall that says, "Moms, if you want to, you can get the Wi-Fi." I mean, it's like everything's just like specifically speaking to moms. And I'm all about, I work in social media marketing. Yes, niche down, but like also let's not forget that like it's not just moms who are caretaking children and babies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that gets old in a way. And I think many of us have just sort of accepted it. So the idea behind that, I don't know, is there any moment where you felt like you experienced feeling othered as a dad?
I mean, I think the very first time we felt it was when we went to the hospital to have our son. Our surrogate was going to give birth, and just the check-in process, getting through security, like the security guard didn't understand why there were 4 of us going upstairs.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of like go very prepared with all the paperwork, and which is totally understandable. And then also just once he was born, dealing with the wristbands, right? Remember, like there was like this like wristband fiasco.
Because legally he was our baby, but because Crystal
gave birth
to him, he's born under her name just to keep it like
so for like 20
accounts sort of clear.
So for 24 hours he had baby her last name, and then eventually we were able to switch it all over. But and of course we were 2 men staying in a women's hospital room for 2 days. We were there for 2 days
with our baby.
So that was a very exceptional moment, and it felt like I felt like we had to be like, look, I'm allowed to be here, but it is understandable. But it was like, right off the gate. And then like today usually I feel a little not othered, but sometimes slightly out of place is like going to like any place where during the day with my son and it's just all moms. And I'm like usually the only dad. There's always like at least one or two, maybe one other dad, or like when I take my son to the library, like I'm typically the only male. There is a father who comes all the time though. Anyways, but just in spaces.
That's a great example too, like where it's not just gay and queer parents, like there are single gay dads I know out there. There are widowed dads, and they have to do the same thing. So we wanted to create a space where you don't need to filter. Like we want to create a space where it's like you're a parent regardless of your identity, and we want to give you tools and resources and connections and information and places to feel like you as a parent belong, and as imperfect as parenting can be, you're not alone. And
also just I think being queer parents, because the normal rules don't apply to us, I think that it's given us a lot of room to kind of question and rethink things that are considered normal. Mm-hmm. Or the standard. I don't even know if it's normal. The standard, like like what most people expect. I don't
even know if it's standard. I would call it like,
I don't know. What would you call it?
The thing that conventional.
There's a good term. Conventional.
We as a society and raising our children have just accepted conventions that were given to us. Mm-hmm. And for many of us, raising a child is not necessarily, we don't second guess it. We don't question it because we're just going to do what we were raised on, or we are just going to do what our parents did because it worked fine. Look at us. Mm-hmm. But actually, I personally believe, and this is something we both kind of agreed to when we first had our child, because let me just take it back to like our wedding. When we decided to get married, you realize, as a gay couple, there are no traditions. We get to create our own traditions.
Right.
And as gay parents, why are we just going to accept the status quo of raising our children as well? Mm-hmm. Let's change what we experience, because for many of us, we either experience dysfunctional family systems, regardless of straight or gay. But for most of us who are gay, we experience an extreme amount of homophobia, whether in our family systems or society. We still deal with it every single day. And that can affect how we raise our children, our sense of security, our sense of safety. And I really wanted to consciously bring awareness to how we raise our child. So I did research. I read books. We joined a parenting group. And it's not perfect. And there's a lot more that we could do. But I think that the information that we've garnered from that and the things that we've learned, I want to spread that information. I think it's super important that if you're going to parent, that you do it consciously, that you don't just accept the status quo and the conventions that are put forth towards us. And you don't just do it off of free reels or TikToks on the internet. Like, let's have real conversations about how to raise our children so that the next generation is emotionally healthy, financially healthy, and we as couples can continue to grow and be better people as well. Yeah. So that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. So
we hope you enjoy that, and please consider subscribing and sharing this podcast with anybody you think that wants the same thing. Actually, that kind of leads me to want to talk about something that's not what we were going to say.
Okay, good. Let's talk about it. What were you going to talk about?
I want to talk about assumptions.
Okay, let's talk about assumptions.
We have a great interview coming up with Luce Remy from Family Equality, and she actually talked about assumptions on that interview. Do you remember this? She said assumptions made an ass of you and me, right? When you assume, you make an ass of you.
Yes.
And really, I think the story I want to tell is about how when we had our son, we had some
3 years ago.
Maybe we'll tell the story another time. Yeah. We'll go in depth about some stuff that happened with our nuclear family. But I remember thinking, if I'm dealing with conservative family members who are homophobic and, in a political climate that we're all in, if you're in America especially,
Everyone,
there must be other gay dads who are going through this. Maverick was a few months old.
Oh, I know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
now.
we're living in Houston. It's a very suburban, conservative, area. So I was super inspired to want to create a group.
And to be honest, I think that you were inspired to create a group, and I think that the reason why, at least from my view, it seemed like, and because I wanted this also, was to create a group of dads that could get together, and so that we could experience time together with our children, and our children could see other two dad families, and so that we could all get together and kind of have the conversation that Brett and I are having right now, but with other two dad families, and the benefit of our children getting to see other two dad families, and just so that they could feel like everybody else, basically.
Yeah, and
right?
And it was impulsive. Like I am. That's kind of my MO.
And also, wait. Just to be clear, too, you started doing the group when I don't even think Maverick was 3 months old, right? So, like, we were new parents. We were very tired. We were also extremely like.
Well, let me just talk about what happened.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell them
how it sort of started. So I was thinking, if I'm feeling this way, then I bet other dads are. So I just started looking up on Instagram, because that's our primary platform on social media, other gay dads in Houston, and I started this little group chat. I called it Gay Dads of Houston. And I was like, would you guys want to get together and do a meetup? And so we did our first meetup in Herman Park.
Oh, yeah.
And it was super fun. And there was one set of dads whose kids were about Maverick's age, who lived not too far from us. And there were some other dads that came. And some of these kids, I think it's the first time they'd ever seen other two dad families, which I thought was really, that to me was like super important and powerful.
And it was also like the very beginning of us having Maverick. So we were like, just grateful to get out of the house and see people, and not only see adults, and they were having to be two dad families. Like, it was a very emotional meetup. I remember that. Yeah,
totally. And so I was super inspired at that moment to be like, oh, okay. And up until this moment, I had I have a coaching business. I'd been a certified life coach for years. And I thought, well, what if I could sort of change my coaching into helping support gay dads? Because I think that there needs to be more inclusion in that space. And that was sort of my naivete, I think, and just thinking that people want coaching around that, when like parenting is parenting. That's the truth. And anyway, but I liked the community. So we started doing these meetups, and we did it almost once a month.
Yeah. Right? In the beginning, I would say definitely once a month. Yeah.
So talking about assumptions, my assumption was this.
What? Tell us.
If you're gay and you decide to be a parent, you're doing it. This is my assumption. You're doing it because you want to make a difference in the world. You want your child to not experience the kind of discrimination and, suffering that many of us had to within the culture that we live in. That was my assumption.
And
that is not true.
Right.
And I this is not a specific judgment to anybody, but it's too general.
Yeah.
Because it's so nuanced. Regardless of how you choose to parent, every single parent is doing it in their own way, the way that they want to. Every child is different.
And every parent is the expert on their child also. So,
but I really thought, having a community of gay dads, we were going to go, let's elevate how we parent, and let's learn how to be more conscious. And that doesn't mean gay dad is not the equivalent of like conscious parenting.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of,
because I do wish that the gay community was more evolved spiritually, emotionally. Personally, this is me, this is not Stephen's opinion, but I do wish in general the gay community was more evolved. But if you just go look at any queer culture magazine or Instagram.
Do they still have magazines?
I don't know. Digital magazines. It's the same stuff. It's six packs and muscles and Speedos. And so I think we, after a couple of meetups, there were a couple people in the group who just seemed a little like dramatic. I guess the quickest way to say it is like They just seemed a little less interested in the community aspect and more interested in
Stirring up drama.
showing off and being like, look how wealthy we are, look at our house, look at what we have. It felt a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of like, how can we support each other?
Yeah.
But after a few months of the meetups, which were fine, they were doing well. We personally like currently live, but not for long, North Houston. It was just kind of far for people downtown. So we never got to host it. But what I would try to do was find places that would host for us.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, long story long.
And we also moved away and moved back.
So we went to New York. Stephen booked a Broadway show. We went to New York for 7 months.
And then came back.
And while we were in New York, I could not manage the Instagram group. There was just no way. And I kind of just fell off because of everything happening in New York and just trying to be present with our 1-year-old and Stephen doing his schedule with the show and all of that. So when we came back, I was super excited to try to like reinvigorate this group and start doing meetups. And here's what happened.
Tell us.
So we got invited by this place called the Color Factory to come and make content. The Color Factory is cute. It's like this little interactive museum. And
they have it in a lot of major cities.
Different places.
Yeah.
And
not just Houston.
When they invited us, I said, would you actually be open to letting us bring a group? I wanted to bring the gay dads and their kids because this is a super fun family event. And if I could get everyone comped, then that kind of is a great way for us to meet up.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, I need to create a Google form. I need to just make sure I can get a head count. So I go into the group after being gone for 7 months. And I just said, hey, we're back and we'd love to see everybody. And we've been invited by Color Factory to go and do this.
The meetup.
To go. And they're giving us free tickets. I just need to get a head count and would love to see how many people want to go. Well, a couple of these little, I would say, drama queens.
There were like two families in particular. Yeah.
They just go, what's the catch? Like, how much is Broadway Husbands getting paid for this?
Yeah, they thought we were getting some sort of...
And I was like, well, we're not getting paid anything. This is free, and like they want to be inclusive.
Yeah.
Families like ours, and if you don't want to go, that's okay. Just don't go. You don't need to stir the pot. And it just turned into this thing where like, oh, I don't know. I don't trust anything that's free. And I was like, interesting. Like,
and they thought that there was some expectation. The only expectation was to go, and if you actually posted something, then great. But like, they weren't really asking for anything. We had to post something, maybe. I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, I think we were going to post something, but I said no. You guys don't have to post anything.
Yeah.
If you want to tag them, of course you're welcome to. But like,
but that's it.
Free tickets.
Yeah, it was just for fun
and a great
fun
to see each other, and it just soured the group in such a way, and then
it turned into a thing.
I just wrote like, listen. After about a day of feeling kind of like victimized by this, because I was like, why am I being painted to be something I'm not? I just said, listen, I created this group to be supportive. If you don't want to be supportive, don't be in the group. Just go somewhere else. Like there's nothing else going on here. And of course, those people left the group. And I was like, okay, fine. But honestly, after that, I was feeling so sort of burnt by even making the effort. And I think that was, again, my assumption of people seeing the good and wanting to have community more than anything. But what sort of sealed the deal for me and like really keeping that group engaged was when I started to see people divide out of the group and start to post content of them out having drinks and Speedos and like, some of these people with like 6-month-old babies at home. And I'm just like, that's not why I wanted to create this group. And if people want to continue to live their lives like they never had kids while they have kids, then fine. But that's not what I was hoping to start. Yeah. I wanted to create a group where it was like, we now have kids. Who are we? How do we support each other?
And, maybe that's part of their evolution and that's okay.
No, it's fine. But I think that was an eye-opening moment for me.
Yeah. Because
that was when I realized, oh, okay. The gay dad community specifically is not necessarily a community. I think there's a conscious parenting community.
Yes.
I think it's about parents. I don't think it's about dads or moms or.
And I think that idea is like the main reason why we want to do this podcast is because we want to just be better parents. We want to be the best parents that we can be, and we want to create the safest space for our son to be authentically himself and just to grow and be great. And and I think that as we learn and as we get better and as we learn from our mistakes, we want to share that journey, and we want to share what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And
also want to like encourage any parent out there to think differently, of course, and like get more information. But also like we want to inspire people to know that you can still do the things you love to do. You can still find ways to be creative if that's what you want to do, and be a parent. And that might mean like we don't have like disposable income all the time to just be able to travel and like be able to do those things, which, you know, part of me maybe just a little bit jealous that those guys can just go to Mexico.
Oh yeah,
you know,
totally. I mean,
have like they were even telling us at some of these meetups, they tell us, oh, well, we have a live-in nanny. She lives in our backyard. And it's like, I can't, that's just not our reality. And I think it's awesome that you have that, but we don't. And even if I could afford that, I don't think I'd want that, because I love these 3 years of bonding with our child. So anyway, I hope we haven't digressed too much into judgment land. I think there's a little bit of judgment going on, of course, on my end, and I have to constantly keep myself in check around it. It's not fair because everyone's doing their best with what they got. But I think it's important context for anyone who's listening to see, like, it doesn't matter what community you're a part of. It's the difference is, how do you want to raise your child? Not necessarily what is the community telling you, right? And what's the standard?
And I think that like that kind of comes to like the idea of what was the word that you used? Not normal, conventional, right? Like conventional ideas, right? And I've noticed that when we've felt pressure to do certain things from our parents, that it doesn't always feel good, right? And it doesn't always work out in a positive way. So I think the more that we are able to kind of do what's right for us or do what's right for you and your family, and not necessarily what's right for the opinion that you're going to get from your parents, I think that you're always going to come out on top, right? Because it always puts us into just a better mindset. We're more confident in our choices and in our parenting because it comes from us, right? When something comes from a convention that's not necessarily working, but we feel like we have to do it because everybody else is doing it and we did it and our parents did it. I think it's just always helpful to do you, right? I mean, yeah.
And on that note, let's take a break.
Yes.
Hey, friends. Quick pause from today's episode to tell you about something really special that we built just for you.
If you've been loving these convos on Husbands to Dads, then you'll definitely want to check out the Broadway Husbands Neighborhood on Substack. That's where we get even deeper with our weekly joy chats and where it's just us, real talk, real life, and a little sparkle.
Plus, we host a monthly community dance class. Yes, you heard that right. Whether you're a total beginner or just love moving your body with other people, it's joyful, it's low pressure, and it's full of love.
Plus, every week we share thoughtful articles and newsletters on parenting, queerness, creativity, and community. Basically, everything that makes this little corner of the internet so special.
So if you're ready to be more connected, more supported, and maybe even just bust a move with us,
come join us on Substack. Just head to broadwayhusbands.substack.com or click on the link in the show notes. We'll see you in the neighborhood.
All right, if you're watching this on YouTube, our background's going to change
very soon because we're in the middle of packing to move, and we are moving in 2 weeks.
Okay. So let's get back to our topic. Okay.
Let's go back to the topic.
So we're talking about conventions as parents. And
convection oven? No, conventions. Okay.
Conventional parenting.
Conventional parenting.
It's interesting because when you become a parent as a 2-dad family, you're already non-conventional, like just by existing.
Right.
And whenever we make a post or a piece of content, and honestly, that's when our account really started growing on Instagram. I mean, it was doing fine before, but when we had Maverick and we started posting content around parenting, it just like blew up. And I remember thinking that's interesting, but also because it's unconventional. People aren't used to seeing 2 dads, and they want to see and they want to learn and they want to, I think, but what's interesting is there's this other half of it when we have something go viral around parenting.
But to be clear, I'm sure most people kind of experience this when things go viral, right?
I don't know that everybody does, to be honest.
I think that. Go ahead.
No, I don't think everybody does. If you're straight,
you don't think everybody who gets a viral video, they don't get hate? I think that
the amount.
Got it.
I think that there might be some people who troll people, but there are some accounts out there that are just they're just like, they don't ruffle any feathers, right? Like, I think of like Casey Stroh, like she's awesome, fun dancer, super fun. She probably gets some hate for her body.
I mean, I don't know.
Because people are so... I think she... But right, because that people are so gross about
everything.
That,
yeah.
There's always going to be trolls.
Yeah.
But we had a video on YouTube go viral.
And this was the kissing video, right?
Yeah, where we kissed Maverick on the cheek.
It was like, kiss,
super cute.
Kiss, kiss, kiss,
For
kiss,
some reason,
kiss.
The song was like some sort of Russian... The song was like a Russian song.
Like that. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, go ahead.
And so when it hit a certain mark, it went viral to Russia. And I don't think I realized how conservative Russia is, but it's like the amount of, and I still think they're still there. I don't have time to keep up with the amount of hate that was coming in.
The kind of hate that we get is like puke emojis. Where's the mom? This poor child. How many kids do you have locked in your basement? That was one that's like always,
people, and we get that not just from Russians. Okay.
Yeah.
We get that from Americans.
To be clear, that's not.
It's always very interesting to me because
there are a lot of things in Russian.
We know now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I had to translate. But we also know now that most pedos are actually straight white men. There's enough research done, but it's still these conventions that people have put on that somehow being gay is a dysfunction because of generations and years of
because of
legislation.
Yeah, because of laws. I mean,
right?
because
like said that's true. And then now, of course, most of it's biblical. People love to put Bible quotes and tell us why it's backed up by the Bible. And we did a whole. If you go on our Substack, you can go watch an entire interview we did with a guy named Brian Recker, who's an amazing...
And he helped clear all of that up for us.
All the biblical definitions that people love to use in defense of what he calls clobbering the gay community.
Yeah.
So we know, and we're going to have to do a whole episode about religion. But
we could do like a lot of episodes about.
We know we are loved. We know who we are. We know. That God
we don't. Yeah, we don't.
Who But it does take a toll on like deleting those constantly being reminded.
Well, because because we don't need validation from that, or we love ourselves for who we are, and we've never lived by that kind of thing, and then to realize or remember that people are deep in this stuff and they believe anything that's told to them. It can take a toll. So like what I recommend is do not read all the comments, just kind of delete quickly because it really
and the other
takes
thing
a
I'm
toll.
learning is like the more you laugh at it, the more you don't take it seriously, the better. Like those trolls, when I just put smiling, laughing emojis on their comments, it pisses them off even more. So, but the thing I mostly get concerned about with those comments is someone young following us and seeing them. I don't want someone going in the comments and feeling like, seeing our content and going, oh my God, this is possible for me.
And then seeing the hate
and being like,
and then they realize, wait, maybe I can't do this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my only concern. That's why I do put some effort into deleting as much as I can. And also why sometimes I just turn the comments off depending on the post. But I also feel like we live in the world that we live in. And if we made an entire account that was just fluff, that was just, look how happy we are as a family, when we actually are living in a world where our rights could be taken away tomorrow.
Yeah.
And our child is going to be very aware that his family is unconventional. And especially when we live in a red state and we live around a lot of people who do sort of spout their religious stuff, I think it's important to live in reality and talk about that reality and help people know if you are feeling othered and if you are living in a place where you don't belong, you're not alone.
You're not alone, and you belong here. And please keep coming back because we love having you here.
That is why we are here. We want you to know, regardless of how you choose to parent, regardless of your belief systems, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of your singleness or your marriedness.
Yeah.
You belong as a parent. You can be better. We can all strive to be better. We can be better people, partners, and parents. And that's what this is about. That's what the neighborhood is about. And we are really, really glad that you're here and listening. So make sure you click that subscribe button. And if you
click it.
It really helps us if you leave a review down below and share this with anyone that you know. And in upcoming episodes, what do we have coming?
We have so many great interviews. We have Lisa Schumann. We have Brian from Gays with Kids.
In fact, that's going to be our next episode. Brian from Gays with Kids is going to talk to us about adoption, kind of because we didn't choose the adoption route, but Gays with Kids. If you don't know, you'll hear more about it in the next episode. So stay tuned. You'll learn more about all these different processes, including donor conceived children. That's with Lisa Schumann from that, and family equality and legislation and stuff like that.
And family equality, you just said it. Sorry, family equality. And I feel like I'm missing something.
Like talk about unconventional. If you follow us on social media, you've heard us talk about the RYE method.
Yes.
So we have two people from Nurture Child, which is a RYE organization in New York City where we used to take Maverick
for his play class. And we still have an awesome parenting group that we attend once a week virtually, with other parents who love the RYE method as much as we do.
So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. Come over and join the rest of this conversation on our Substack. Please feel free to, on there, hop in, offer any topics, ideas, or questions you want us to answer. We will definitely, about once a month, do a solo episode, just the two of us, and answer any grab bag questions that you might have.
Yeah, please drop us some questions. We love answering your questions. We have so much fun doing that, and we love to connect with you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you in the next episode.
See ya.